Vyasan Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashta Prayiswa Badrisu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So this morning's class from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 26 and 27. So I'll read through 26 and then 27. When we get to that, the devotees that want to chant the mantra can do so at that time. Tatapi nata manasya nata nataya natitam paravare yata rupe janiyam te tvarupina tatapi nata manasya nata nataya natitam paravare yata rupe janiyam te tvarupina tatapi nata manasya nata nataya natitam paravare yata rupe janiyam te tarupita. Word for word translation. Tataapi. In spite of that, natamanasya, the one of the one who is asking for. Let's get this right. That's better. Okay. Nata, O Lord. Nataya, please award. Natitam, as it is desired. Para avare, in the matter of mundane and transcendental. Yata, as it is. Rupe, in the form. Janiyam, may it be known. Te, your. Tu, but. Arupina, one who is formless. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In spite of that, my Lord, I'm praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. Text 27. And now we all can chant together after I finish chanting. Ya Tatma Maya Yogena Nana Shakti Upabrin Hitam Vilumpan Vristijan Grinan Vibrat Atmanam Yatatma Maya Yogena Nana Shakti Upabrim Hitam Vilumpan Visijan Grinan Vibrat Atmana Yatatma Maya Yogena Nana Shakti Upabrim Hitam Vilumpam Visijan Grinan Vibrat Atmana. Hare Krishna. If you so desire, you can unmute and chant.
यथात्मा योगेन नानाशक्त्युपहृतं विलुम्पं विसृजन् गृह्णन् बिभ्रत् आत्मनम् आत्मना.
यथात्मा मायया योगेन नानाशक्त्या उपबृंहितं विलुम्पं विसृजं घृणं बिभ्रात् आत्मानाम् आत्मना. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yathatma maya yogena nana shaktya uparitam vilumpan visrajan grihnan vibrada atmanam atmana.
Okay. Anyone else?
यथात्मा माया योगेन नानाशक्त्युपबृहितं विलुम्पन् विसृजन् गृह्णन् बिभ्रदात्मन् आत्मना.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Word for word. Yata, as much as. Atma, Om. Maya, potency. Yogena, by combination. Nana, various. Shakti, energy. Upabrinhitam, by combination and permutation. Vilumpan, in the matter of annihilation. Vesrijan, in the matter of generation. Venan, in the matter of acceptance. Vibhat, in the matter of maintenance. Atmanam, own self. Atmana, by the self. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And please inform me how you, by your own self, manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, acceptance, and maintenance by combination and permutation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The whole manifestation is the Lord Himself by diffusion of His different energies only, namely the internal, external, and marginal, just as the sunlight is the manifestation of the energy of the sun planet. Such energy is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord, just as the sunshine is simultaneously one with and different from the sun planet. The energies are acting by combination and permutation by the indication of the Lord, and the acting agents like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are also different incarnations of the Lord. In other words, there's nothing but the Lord, and still the Lord is different from all such manifested activities. How it is so will be explained later on. Om Gnati Brahmyasa, Gyana Gyana Shalakaya, Chakshu Umilitam Dina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swaparantika. Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Utapada Kamalam, Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha, Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sijivam. Sa Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari. Vishabhanusute Devi Paramami Hari Priya. Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhi Evacha. Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Dvaita Gadadhara Shivashari Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Graya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nirveshesha Sunyavari Pastyatya Deshatayani. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurati Se Namaha. Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himabiri Vacha Vishindaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste. So the English translation, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 26. In spite of that, my Lord, I'm praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I be pleased May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. Translation, text 27. And please inform me how, by your own self, by your own self, you by your own self manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, acceptance, and maintenance by combination and permutation. So who is speaking? That would be Lord Brahma. So we've gotten to this point where Lord Brahma is very much approved in terms of his actions by Lord Narayan. And so much has been revealed to Lord Brahma in the texts before this. When Lord Brahma obeyed the sound that he heard, which said tapa, and he went through tapasya for quite a few years. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was very satisfied and happy with him. And therefore, then the Vaikuntha realm was revealed to him. And Lord Brahma saw the Vaikuntha planets. He saw the personality of Godhead in the four-armed form. So this was Lord Narayan that he saw, along with his associates. And the Lord appeared very attractive, and he was very much satisfied. He was smiling at Lord Brahma. As a matter of fact, he even shook Lord Brahma's hands. Lord Brahma saw so much opulence around the Lord. And Lord Brahma was very overwhelmed with joy. Literally, tears filling his eyes, with the tears of love. And he offered obeisances, bowed down to the Lord. And the Lord explained how he was very happy that Lord Brahma had gone through this penance with a desire for creation. So Lord Narayan was appreciating Lord Brahma's activity, first obeying Lord Vishnu, Gavadakshai Vishnu, going through the tapasya. And now at the end of the tapasya, the Lord is revealing himself. It has happened in so many situations. When Dhruva Maharaj went into the forest, he also saw Lord Vishnu. He did tapasya for 5 months. The Lord revealed himself. In many instances that that Kadam Muni went through tapasya. Again, the Lord revealed himself. So when one puts one's heart to serve, even with difficulties, material difficulties present, and they still want to really serve from the heart, and they are determined to fulfill what they want to do in service to the Lord becomes very, very happy and impressed with that. And that should be the cornerstone of the way we approach devotional service. So, the Lord spoke to him, to Lord Brahma. And he explained that he was the one that ordered Lord Brahma to go through the penance when he couldn't figure out what was going on when he was first born. So he said that a very important statement, penance is my heart and soul. This is all the texts before this. These two that we're going to be talking about today. Penance and I are non-different. Again, something to learn, something to note. Penance and I are non-different. The Prabhupada is having us go through a life which has some tapasya associated with it in the terms of the 4 regulative principles, which bring us to the human platform. Many people who are living this time are not living at the human platform. They are living in a sophisticated animal platform. As a matter of fact, when you go to school, He'll say, man is a higher animal. Well, that is true. Just higher in terms of a sophisticated, but animalistic in behavior. Because nobody that is open their eyes, nobody has opened their eyes well enough to understand the real nature of the person. We are body, gross, subtle, and then soul together. But the people who are speaking like this don't know that. Anyway, so Lord Brahma has done tremendous penance, and the Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu, is very happy with them. And he's going to be shown how to do the creation. But then he has some questions himself to ask the Lord, which is what's in this text today. Text 26, Lord, he's asking, Lord Brahma is asking, in spite of all, I'm praying that you kindly fulfill my desire. He wants to create, and he actually wanted to create, and it should be in such a way that he doesn't become too proud. He was very concerned about false ego, but still said, kindly fulfill my desire. And he wanted also to know that the Lord is transcendental, but he's still assuming a mundane form. But you don't have that kind of form. His real form is transcendental. So Brahma got it right. He knew that. But this other part here, which is part of his external energy, the mundane form, Lord Brahma says, normally you don't have that kind of form. But you are still assuming this form. And also, he wants to know, Lord Brahma wants to know how the different energies for creation, for maintenance, for acceptance, for annihilation, how they all play into this whole purpose, this whole starting all with the finish, the generation or creation and then the annihilation, how the energies combine or their permutations in order to get this to occur. So, in the purpose of the Prabhupada is saying, the whole manifestation is the Lord himself. And when this manifestation is talking about both spiritual and material. Lord Brahma is going to create in the material energy, but Lord Brahma has been shown the spiritual world too. And so Srila Prabhupada combines both the internal, external, and marginal. The whole manifestation is the Lord himself by using these three energies, two principal energies, and then the marginal energy. Two principal energies, meaning the internal and the external, diffuse them in such a way that this whole manifestation comes about. The spiritual world is actually from Lord Balaram, but Lord Balaram is the first plenary expansion of Lord Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya has taught us that the Lord is, in truth, simultaneously one and different. So Srila Prabhupada uses the sun and the sun rays to describe that. Such energy is simultaneously one and different from the Lord, just like the sunshine is one and different from the sun planet. The sun planet is one location. The sunshine is all over the place. So there's a difference there. But the sunshine comes from the sun. That's the energy of the sun. So in that way, they are one and the same. But location-wise, form-wise, not to mention Vivaswan, the sun god, there are differences. So the different energies from the Supreme Personality of Godhead combine and permute in different ways. And Srila Prabhupada also says that they are acting agents, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, Brahma, the creation, he's about to do it. Vishnu for maintenance, and Shiva for annihilation. They are also different incarnations of the Lord, or Narayana. So the conclusion is there's nothing but the Lord. If there is no Lord, there is no existence. Nothing is outside of the Lord. If people begin to say that there is something that's different from the Lord, then that's illusion. That is the example of the illusory energy working on the mind of such a person. There is no God. Can you show me God? Like some people say that. But they cannot see the Lord because the Lord is covered by his internal potency for those who don't have faith first. He says he will not reveal. The Bhagavad Gita says he will reveal himself. But actually, any person who has good eyes can see that the Lord has revealed himself in another way. Material nature. That's all around us. Nobody can create anything in material nature. We only take material nature ingredients as starting materials to create something else. But nobody can create anything in material nature like it was originally done in the material energy. That's not possible. So if we have starting materials to do something, then who put the starting materials there? That alone should tell us that there is in existence an engineer or engineers that put this together. So the Lord is always there, and his energies are pervading every single thing. So the Lord was very happy about what Lord Brahma had done, and then from his happiness, he showed Lord Brahma the Vaikuntha planets, he showed himself, those who were serving him, and told him to ask whatever that he wanted to ask. And those two questions are in the two texts that we talked about. Lord Brahma being perplexed as to knowing that the Lord is in his eternal energy, that is his nature, but the external energy is also being manifest by him or created by him. And he wanted to know how the energies work together. He's going to be using the energies to create. So those were very, very timely questions to ask him. So because Lord Brahma went through tapasya, Krishna was pleased with him, or Lord Narayana was pleased with him. The lesson we learn is we also have to involve ourselves in devotional service, whatever the challenges are. Because when we involve ourselves in devotional service, serving the Lord without expecting anything, and taking that service like our life and soul, then we will get some revelation, just like Brahma got the revelation of the Vaikuntha planets. He saw it himself and saw the Lord and was able to talk to the Lord. So just like it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam in a purport for Canto 3, chapter 25, text 43, devotional service results in the revelation of the imports of Vedic knowledge. So it's confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam that one who engages in devotional service of Vasudeva Krishna, that person has complete transcendental knowledge and renunciation. And there is no explanation for these attainments, meaning that a person who is engaged in devotional service is actually living the conclusion of the Vedas. They are already living it. And the Lord in his heart, in the person's heart, will reveal connections and wisdom for transcendental knowledge. So the person would actually be a very, very knowledgeable person just because they involve themselves in this transcendental process of devotional service. So Krishna reveals. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says, ahoitiki, without reason, this understanding comes. And he goes to the extent, Srila Prabhupada goes to the extent of even saying, if the person is completely illiterate, still the transcendental knowledge of the scriptures is revealed onto that person simply because he engaged himself or herself in devotional service. And he says that is stated in the Vedic literature. This is part Canto 3, which is the part Lord Kapila is speaking to his mother Devahuti. And these statements are made. So anyone who has full faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as his representative, the spiritual master, to that person, all the import, which means the meaning, the essence, the understanding of Vedic literatures, they're all revealed. He does not have to seek those separately. So those who are yogis, bhakti yogis, engaging in devotional service, are full in knowledge and renunciation. This is why Srila Prabhupada wants us very much to be engaged so much in devotional service that he starts with rules of doing and not doing. Pancharatrika Vidhi for the deities and our chanting and prescribed number of rounds. So the whole thing has been organized and situated. When we follow it, then it is called sadhana bhakti, true enough. But for a period of time doing that, our hearts will be open. And when our hearts are open and our faith increases, then so much wisdom comes from the hearing of the Vedic literatures. So much wisdom comes, and a person is able to put two and two together. And they also see in their lives that the lives are actually elevated in terms of happiness, in terms of protection. So many things come. These are just two of them. So we are fortunate to be in the situation we're in now, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We have to take it seriously, but we also have to be aware of the fact that Maya's department never goes to sleep. And therefore, while we are serving, we also have to be very, very attentive towards how we relate to devotees. Therefore, what we're really talking about is offenses have to be either minimized or removed altogether. Aparad is what slows down. Aparad is what takes us away from the wonderful understanding of the wisdom that can come from a service. Aparad is one thing. Vaishnava aparad especially. And there's seva aparad too, how we approach service. But Vaishnava aparad is one of the biggest ones. Careful to stay away from that. And when we do that, and the conclusion is there is the entrance into the spiritual realm. In the matter of fact, across the board, there are some who would go to the Brahmajyoti effulgence of the Lord, and some who go to the Vaikuntha planets, which means even adding those who are living life, understanding that the material world is not the all in all, but they want even to merge into the effulgence of the Lord. That is also spiritual, although it doesn't have the lasting period of time, as well as it doesn't have the opportunity to relate to the Lord in some of the rasas. It doesn't, but it's definitely life outside of the material world. So that's always there. We have to surrender to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for that to happen. So Tapasya, which Lord Brahma went through, it focuses the mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we are doing tapasya in any way or shape or form, we are doing it for the satisfaction of the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, based on the instructions of Guru. So through that, our faith will be increased. Mm? As in American terms, some people like to be fair weather people. When things are going okay, then they can do some service. And when something happens, then excuse number one, two, three, and so they also come and say, oh, because of this, I can't, because of that, I can't, because of this, I can't. But if you want to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead by saying, I can't, I can't, I can't, how will we ever get there? To open our hearts. You cannot open your heart by saying, I can't, I can't, I can't. Difficulties will come. That's just the way this world is. Material world is happiness and distress. So even when it comes to doing service, sometimes there will be some challenges. But we should approach it like Bhaktivinoda Thakur approached service. And the statement he made was repeated by Srila Prabhupada. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada says, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when I face challenges in my service, that's when I'm the happiest. That's something for us to think about. The challenges that I faced in service are my greatest happiness. That shows the depth of love that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Normally, when someone is going through difficulties, they want to either get around it or stop what they're doing in the hope that the difficulties will also go away. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur would not, this statement means he doesn't stop. If he's doing devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and difficulties come, he's even happy because that is showing the love that he has for Krishna by doing the service, even in the difficulty, because that means I am so basically, in one way to put it is, I am so much in love with you, Krishna, that no matter what happens, I will do things to satisfy your senses. That is what he believes. That is what he expressed, and Srila Prabhupada repeated it. So this, no matter what the tapasya is and how it affects us on a physical level, if we go through with it, then our faith gets increased. Because there's always, Krishna saying, Ye atamapajante tam sateva bhajamyaham. The extent to which the person surrenders, even in difficulty, I reward them accordingly. Therefore, Krishna always reveals something, depends on the person, reveals something that would make the person realize that Krishna is in their corner. And that's what the sweetness of devotional service is. Or this is what devotional service brings us, the sweetness. So this increased faith, it makes our faith get increased. And this faith makes us serve the Lord even more. And then the result that comes from it is the revelation of Vedic knowledge. Everything that we do is in fact controlled by the Lord. The Lord's energies, the internal, the external, and marginal, cover everything. Spiritual world and material world. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text 27, Srila Prabhupada quotes it a lot. Prakritikriya manani gunai kamani sarvasya ahankara vimudatma kataham iti manyate. The direct translation is that the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. This is the difference between the thoughts of a devotee and the thoughts of a non-devotee. A non-devotee may think that I'm the one doing everything. A non-devotee may think that I went to school and I studied hard and had a degree and applied for and got a job and now I've got a good salary, therefore I did everything. People do think that way. Now, any activity though, it's described very, very, very simply. We know that in our hearts, the real person, the soul, as well as the super soul. So everything that we do, there are 5 things that control our activities. 5 things controlling our activities. First, the place that we do the activity. Second, ourselves, the living entity. And it doesn't mean all, this is for all living entities now, not just human beings only. Hmm? The third is we have the senses. So whichever sense or senses or combination of senses that are used to perform that activity. The fourth is the effort that we put in, the endeavor to do the activity. And the fifth, and this is the one that differentiates the devotee acting from a non-devotee acting. The fifth one is the sanction of the Lord as super soul. The super soul is sitting in our hearts, and Sri Prabhupada describes the two Sanskrit words, Upadishya Anumanta. The Lord is there, he supervises, and he also permits. So for every activity, the sanction of the Lord as super soul plays the most important role. The place where we're doing the activity, ourselves, our abilities, our senses, and then the endeavor that may be there. But with the super soul not sanctioning, it will not work. It will not work. Therefore, we are favored when we use our senses and our endeavor and our abilities in the place, even we're in the material world, but still use the places, especially the temples, to do our activities and even go through some sort of difficulties and take it as part of our tapasya when we're serving. The super soul will definitely sanction for the activity to happen. And in that way, then we are steadily building up our spiritual credits, and Krishna will be happier and happier and happier with us. So it is not, if we look at the way Lord Brahma explained, he went through the Pasha, he obeyed the voice. He also, after the Pasha, was very, very, very much welcomed with the revelation of the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And now, Lord Brahma gets an opportunity to ask his questions. And now the questions will be dealt with, although a little bit of it I read a little forward, but I'm not tempted. I don't want to be tempted to start the Lord's response to that, because that's for those who are going to be preaching later on. So, surrendered souls, we have to learn we are akuto bhaya, doubtless and fearless. When one is doubtless, meaning that they have no doubt about being servant of a servant of a servant of a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they have no doubt about what they have to perform, and they're also fearless because they know they're under the protection of the Lord, then this kind of soul has the opportunity to gain entrance into the spiritual kingdom. As a matter of fact, the Prabhupada says the entrance to the spiritual kingdom is guaranteed, literally guaranteed. And he also has mentioned that if we chant the minimum of 16 rounds with attention of japa, and we obey the four regulated principles, then our entrance into the spiritual kingdom is in fact guaranteed, with the only exception, which is what we talked about earlier, is aparad. Why does aparad stop us? The reason is very simple. In the spiritual world, the activities among everybody is based on love. And it's not based on the negative activities, negative things like anger and so on. It's not based that way. So if we do things that are offensive, then basically we're telling the Lord's agents that we are not ready to fit into the way the lifestyle is for those who are in the spiritual world. It boils down to that. This is not a matter of rules. It's a matter of the way things are done in the spiritual world. And we are here in the material world. We are supposed to live life so that we could fit in to life in the spiritual world. And one thing that's absent is aparad. Therefore, if we commit offenses here, we're telling the Lord's agents and the spiritual master, we're not ready to go. So whatever we do, the whole thing can be ruined. And whatever we do in devotion service, it can be ruined with aparat. It can literally be ruined with aparat. That's why aparat is called the mad elephant disease. Like the elephant comes to a nice garden and then just walks through and disturbs the whole garden. Everything that we have been doing, and all the spiritual credits still won't allow us to go back to the spiritual world because we have put out, and it's been known by our activities that we will offend. If you offend devotees here, it's assumed you would offend devotees in the spiritual world. And that is not allowed. Therefore, we cannot be, we would not be allowed to go back. Meaning that even if we chant and obey the regulated principles, if we are offensive, we can't go back. But actually, if we are offensive, then how potent is our chanting? That is also going to be affected. An offensive person cannot chant very nicely. They don't go together. It's not possible. Because a person that focuses on chanting and chants with great attention will, in fact, also hearing and chanting, will be very eager to hear and obey what they hear. And you will hear that you can't offend, and that is trouble. As a matter of fact, in the chanting of japa, there are 10 offenses that have to be avoided. The devotees shouldn't be offended. We should understand Lord Vishnu's position compared to Shiva and Brahma and the other demigods. They're not at the same level as Lord Vishnu. That we should, in fact, obey the orders of the spiritual master. Some people sometimes, the spiritual master says some things, and then they, well, maybe, and maybe not. In other words, they will not take it as their life and soul. If that's what Srila Prabhupada did, we wouldn't have ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada was told by his spiritual master to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. We should never forget that. He agreed, he obeyed it, and he had difficulty and still went on anyway. This is how it came to be. The spiritual master has to be obeyed. And Srila Prabhupada is a great example of how you obey Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. We also should not blaspheme or vilify the books, the spiritual books. We shouldn't think that the holy name is just something to be imagined. Krishna is not imagination. The holy name is the Lord. And we shouldn't give some own mundane interpretation to the holy name. And chant and then commit sinful activities and think, oh, the holy name is so potent, it's going to nullify my wrongdoing. So I chant and then go back and do the same thing again, same wrongdoing, and then chant and then do the same wrongdoing and think that the mantra will always counteract that. No, Papa said that's the greatest offense. We shouldn't take the Hare Krishna mantra, the whole process of chanting, like another ritual for fruitive activity to get something out of it. That sometimes some rituals are described in the Vedas, and there's some material things that we get from the Hare Krishna mantra is not for that. We also have to be careful when we're talking to people. Somebody relates back to us for us to realize that he's quite faithless, especially if somebody tells you to your face that Krishna is not God. You don't want to be with that person. You stop immediately, get out of there. Don't preach to the faithless. And finally, our faith in the holy name should be very, very strong. And the more we get stronger like that, the less we should be attached to material things. Because material things make us think of them, work with them, think of them, and withstand the risk of thinking about material things at the time we're on our deathbed, which will bring us back to the material world to fulfill whatever that desire was that we were thinking about. So only as necessary do we use material things. We are not saying that person should live a poor life. That's not what we're saying. As a matter of fact, that's counter to devotional culture because we can't get more people coming to be Krishna conscious. Oh, these people are so poor. That's why they call them Krishna. That they have nothing. That's why they call them Krishna. Then the people who are well off, they won't come around. Hmm. So Krishna consciousness and poverty don't go together. Renunciation is another thing. That's the person says that I'm not using this, I'm not using this. And they're living their life, they have simplified their lives. But that doesn't mean they become poor. Hmm? So Krishna consciousness and poverty actually don't go together. Krishna consciousness and renunciation go together, but they're not the two things are not the same. Hmm? So we use the material energy as needed. And if we have more, because the Lord has given us more, then we use extra for Krishna conscious activities and Krishna conscious projects. Hmm? Like that. And that way, we will stay away from aparat and we have an opportunity to go back to the spiritual world. We won't have issues. We don't want issues. We want to go back home. Because if you're not old yet, and when you get old and the body starts breaking down, it is a very miserable life sometimes that way it gives us. You can think about the one time that you're younger, the more things that you were able to do, and now you cannot do them because the body won't work so well. But it also means that the time to go back to Godhead is getting nearer and nearer. And there's a time to go back to Godhead. Devotees have those that have the opportunity to go back to Godhead. Therefore, this is the time that we have to take whatever the body can do, we do with even more zeal. And make sure that, as they say in American language, we dot our I's and cross our T's. Everything that we're supposed to do it to the utmost ability. And stay humble. Stay humble. Very important. Very, very, very important. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8 through 12, the points that Sri Krishna says that's knowledge and anything outside of that is ignorance. The first thing as mentioned is humility. So the Lord's energy pervades everything. Lord Brahma is going to create, and he is being careful. We get all his questions answered so that when it comes to creation within the material energy, he would not be affected. His devotion won't be affected, and he would not feel falsely proud. All of that, he's been very, very, very careful to ask the Lord to explain things to him and guide him so that he'll stay away from false ego when he creates. So if he's like that and he's the first living being, then this is what he's thinking. We should be thinking that way also. In all our activities, we should remain humble. And then the Lord will actually elevate us and give us a chance to go back to the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So thank you, dear devotees, for coming on for this program. This is the time to unmute. If you have questions, if you have realizations or takeaways that you want to express, you can unmute yourself and do that at this time. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. If
Hare
anybody
Krishna.
has questions, please just raise your hand so I can see and I'll stop talking then. Prabhu, you were
Hare Krishna.
saying you had read ahead and you knew what questions were coming, but you were curbing your enthusiasm or your excitement to go to that. But I was thinking it is so important to stay here longer because we need to prepare ourselves to be able to accept that information. You know, instead of rushing to the cream of the, chapter or to the most important or the most exciting part, we have to spend so much more time preparing ourselves to be able to accept, understand, assimilate that information. So over the last few verses, I've been saying, you say we have to surrender, we have to be humble. I think I am humble. I wouldn't do anything that makes me think I am arrogant. I'm whatever I do, the choice I make I'm thinking I'm doing it out of humility.
Mhm.
So I was asking this question a few verses ago, and Charuchandra Prabhu said sadhu sangha is important.
Yeah.
And sadhu sangha, not just going to the temple and surrounding ourselves with devotees, which is very good, but it means actually associating with devotees, with books and things like that. Another one that is difficult is it's easier, I feel, to look at somebody else's situation and decide this is right, that is wrong. But when we are having to make the decisions, choosing, I don't like this, but choosing sides or deciding who is right, who is wrong, when there is conflict or there is a problem,
Hmm.
what are the practical techniques to control anger, to control being judgmental, to
Uh,
control our tongue, to control our, uh, you know, mm, temptation to uh, do something that will be quick for the here and now, but not in the long term be the right decision?
in general, when we are relating to devotees, mm, we have to understand who devotees are. It's such an important thing because it does, in fact, affect how we relate to devotees.
Mm,
Never forget who devotees are.
mm,
Devotees are the few in this world who are chanting the Lord's name, who are favored by the mother of devotion, Srimati Radharani. A devotee may be humble at heart and humble in their behavior, but a devotee is very much elevated in compared to non-devotees. So we are a particular, literally a tribe dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
mm,
And therefore, we are literally living a life which is an exception compared to the way non-devotees are living their lives.
mm,
And so, since we ourselves are in that group, we have to remember that this is the definition for that group, a devotee. And so, if we offend those kind of people, the ones that have said yes and they've turned their head towards the sunshine, towards Krishna, and have an opportunity to go home, then Krishna, and especially Srimati Radharani, will not be happy with us. So, with that in mind, we have to be careful how we relate to devotees. Now, as far as the false ego goes, you have expressed some things that show that you are very much aware of the pitfalls that can happen in terms of false ego. I will give you one exercise. The Bhakti Maharaj challenged us to do.
mm,
So I'm going to tell you. He said, and it literally, the nature of it is a challenge. So now I'll just describe it the way we heard it. He said, go to the person who you trust, who is not necessarily a friend, but they know you. And you take a pen and paper, or these days you can use a cell phone because you can take notes in the cell phone too, and ask them, Prabhu or Mataji, what do you think that in my devotion that is weak that I need to work on? You ask them that question.
mm.
Now, your close friends won't want to tell you anything negative. So don't go to close friends. Just go to the rest of the bodies. Say, what do I need to work on? In other words, you're asking them, what are my faults?
Mhm.
But you just ask them what I need. You put it that this work, because if you put it what I need to work on, if you ask them what are my faults, they may be a little hesitant to tell you like this, you're like this, like this.
Mhm.
But what I need to work on means turn it to things that you should do in order to improve as a devotee. So
Mm.
ask them. It's actually the same thing. It's just that
Yes, yes.
the approach is different. And then he warned us that you may hear some things about yourself that you say, me? I'm like that? You know, so be ready. Be ready. Not let your mind take over and the ego just go out like that. No. But be ready to write what it is. Now, it may be that some of the things that you hear may not be true about you. It may be true. I mean, it may be that it's not those things, but that is a perception that others have of you that you don't know about yourself.
Mm.
And you don't think that's important? It's very important. Very, very important. Hmm? And so it's quite an exercise. And I would say the majority of the devotees that back then I told actually did not do it because they were not ready to hear what was to happen. Hmm? Another one too, but if you do it, it's actually very, very, very good. Just don't just write it, and you can sleep on it. Don't say anything negative to it. You know, my situation. I'll tell you what happened in my case. I didn't even set out to do it, but it happened to me anyway. There was a situation in Girinagri, and it was an ugly situation. Some devotees were insulted, and they were very, very upset. And um, I wasn't there at the time. Some of them were my God family members. I wasn't there at the time it happened. And these devotees, we heard later on, when I came, I heard later on that this had happened. And I thought that it was such a bad thing that any devotee, even if they're making a suggestion that you can tell somebody no, but don't insult them. And they did. And so without anybody knowing, I went to the devotee's house. Those that got insulted, two Matatis. I went to them and I apologized on behalf of those devotees that I knew that had done that. And then that's when I heard about some things about me. The devotee says they were telling me we're very appreciated. They were actually crying that it still was hurting them that this situation happened. They got insulted like that. So they told me things that helped me also in my devotional life. They said, we didn't expect that you, Pariksit, would come and even apologize on behalf of anybody. Then I said, why? They said, well, what we've heard about you is that you're very proud. So we didn't expect, yeah, so they told me. It took other devotees that are not my God family members to tell me that this is what they say about me. And so and so I learned that day that okay, so there's pride and I have to work on pride. But it just happened in the situation so they weren't what they were saying that they don't expect a person that's proud to even apologize on behalf of anyone else. Yeah. But so they were appreciative, but then they also revealed that to me. So then I got to know. So the more you get to know, about what's going on, whether I'm proud or not, but that's what the Buddhists are saying about me. So that's what I have to, have to be focused on. And if you change, and if you're careful, that's some people may say that because they don't like you. People are at different levels, and they may say such things. Some people may say that because there's envy. And believe you me, I mean, if I had to talk about my life from high school, I've been envied until now because of some ability. One of them being music, and then of course studies. So I've also worked hard. So in academics, I did well in the music. I did well. And some people say, "How can he be good in academics and also in music at the same time?" Too big? No, it's not possible. So no, part of it is envy, but you hear of what they're thinking about, and you get to learn about what they're thinking about you, and whatever you can do to help change that, then you change that, and it will help with the growth. And believe me, that is a cornerstone. Is one of the cornerstones of humility, to hear about yourself in a negative way and not hit back at that person. Actually, thank them and be aware of that and adjust accordingly. But sometimes it is true. Sometimes it's envy too. But you hear both ways. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Glory to the Prabhupada. So that's life in the material world. So,
yes. Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Well, we're almost at 9. So If
Yes.
not, then thank you very much. I got on my little soapbox not today, but
Very
those, yeah,
important stuff on a Sunday morning to get us started for the week. These are the kinds of things that we have to, as you were talking about Brahma and and over the last few verses, the point has been how to approach, how to be, why that is so important. And
hmm
we are told you have to be humble, and that verse pranipatena has been coming up many, many times in all of
yeah,
these. If we are not going to prepare ourselves, it's like they say the pot has to be prepared to take milk. If milk is poured into a pot that's unclean, it'll curdle. So
yeah,
if you want to use a pot to boil milk, you have to make sure it is clean, it is ready to take it. And what is
mm,
to come is very important stuff. And we need to prepare ourselves for that. We need to be ready. And so I mean,
mm,
there is that desire to rush forward and find out what it is that we are going to find out, but we should
yeah,
also take the time to make sure that we are getting ourselves ready. And like you were saying, the first thing that Krishna says is important, and it's outside of knowledge, is humility. That
hmm
that quality is the most difficult but the most important to have. If I say
yeah,
I know everything there is to know, then I'm not going to be learning anything. So I have to be
mm,
able to say, I need to learn. I don't know this. I need to learn. I have to find out. So
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
we hear it again and again, but we need to hear it one more time. Sometimes I have people saying, they keep saying the same thing. Every class, it is the same thing. Yeah, it is the same thing, and obviously we are so dense. It's not getting in. We have to hear it that many times and one more time because
Yeah,
we have not actually understood.
no. To Prabhupada said many times, you're not the body. How many times he repeated that? You're not the
Yes.
body. This is the
Yeah.
soul. You're not the
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
You have to leave. The body is temporary. We are the real, real person's a soul. So like that. And the
Yeah.
soul is in other other living entities too.
Yes.
So, you have to remember that in order to behave at least cordially towards other living entities, especially the ones that were way bigger than. Hmm? You have to be
Mhm.
very careful like that. So, but he repeats it. If we don't repeat it a lot, then we will not give much of chance to other living entities who are much smaller and smaller bodies to live.
Mhm.
We don't care too much about that. But the
Yeah.
devotee thinks about that. Hmm? So yeah, repetition is good. It sinks in more. Hare Krishna.
Mhm. Hare Krishna.
Any
Thank you
other
very
comments?
much. No, I don't see Donna
Any other
Prabhu.
comments? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Go and
No.
check out
So
Patrubis.
yes, Kripa Sindhu
Sunami
Pya
Evacha, Patitana, Pavanebhyo,
Bhavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo
Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
Jai. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Jai
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.